Boy, there are a lot of superhero cartoons these days. I can see my favorite comic book heroes fall in love, save civilians, fight aliens, or even each other. But out of all superhero cartoons, there is one that has more to do with film noir than superheroes, and that show is Batman the Animated Series. The show is about Bruce Wayne, and little known fact, he witnessed his parents' murder as a young child. Haunted by this tragic event, he decides to commit his life to a fight against crime under the alter ego Batman, to strike fear into the hearts of criminals. But let's be honest, you know this already. Batman is one of the most recognizable heroes on Earth. But despite other cape and cowl wearing heroes, Batman has more in common with the classic crime dramas known as film noir that originated in the early 1940s through its dark visuals and dramatic themes. But the term film noir didn't actually enter the mainstream until the 1970s. In film noir's heyday, critics and viewers commonly labeled it as melodrama. Many of the archetypal stories of classic noir derive from crime fiction that originated during the Great Depression a few decades earlier. Film noir encompasses a range of plots. The central figure may be a private investigator, a plainclothes policeman, a law-abiding citizen lured into a life of crime, or simply a victim of circumstance. Similarly, Batman features a private investigator that regularly interacts with a plainclothes yet epic mustachioed policeman as he tries to solve various clues in order to catch a variety of criminals. A variety that includes anything from low street thugs to crime bosses to corrupt politicians and businessmen to deranged psychopaths to jewelry thieves to hired mercenaries, homicidal maniacs to criminal masterminds and serial killers. The character of Batman seems to really come to life whenever we see his detective side that none of the live-action movies have really taken advantage of yet, despite a number of great stories. This makes a ton of sense since Batman is the world's greatest detective and was directly inspired by Sherlock Holmes, and his first official appearance was in Detective Comics number 27 in a story titled The Case of the Chemical Syndicate. Unless you count this teaser image of Batman in Action Comics number 12. The series' best known contributions were the Joker's assistant, Harley Quinn, and police detective Renee Montoya, whom writers would later bring to the ongoing Batman comic book series. New life was also given to lesser-known characters such as Clock King, Clayface, and most notably, Mr. Freeze, who was transformed from a comedic cold-themed villain to a serious, tragic character with a sympathetic backstory. You know, like all the character traits that Arnold Schwarzenegger's Mr. Freeze nailed. But one of my favorite attributes of the show must be its imaginative title cards, which are reminiscent of films of a bygone era. The imagery in Batman the Animated Series paints a stark, light-dark contrast and dramatic shadow patterning that are usually associated with film noir. The shadows of Venetian blinds, silhouettes of people, dramatic reveals from shadows, strong spotlights, long shadows, and characters' faces being partially or fully obscured by darkness are all classic traits of noir lighting. The show's environment is a great mixture of Art Deco and Gothic influence. The buildings, vehicles, and furniture are designed using bold geometric forms reminiscent of skyscrapers from New York in the 1930s, with a little touch of Gothic influence. The visual combination of film noir, Art Deco, and Gothic flourish gave the show a distinct look that would later be labeled as Dark Deco by the producers. But despite the show's darker look, it never went too dark. The world of Batman the Animated Series felt lived in, but again, it never felt too dark. Around this time, with the release of The Dark Knight Returns and Watchmen, the comic book industry entered what is commonly known as the Dark Age of comic books, where every story seemed to try to be going gritty and dark. It was the time when we got a lot of great works from Neil Gaiman, Alan Moore, Frank Miller, and many others. But eventually, the superheroes that we grew to love acquired questionable morality, exploited female body parts, and excessive violence. I mean, this was the era when we witnessed the death of Superman, the Clone Saga, and Batman getting his back broken by Bane, forcing him into retirement and passing on the mantle of Batman to Azrael. As a result, Batman the Animated Series was much closer to Batman than a comic book that inspired it, thus proving that gritty isn't always better. Whew. Now that was a long one. Jeez, I could use a drink.
Here.
Well, hello, beautiful.
The fun has just begun.
Big fan. Ah, Batman. Now I know what you're thinking. It is so weird that Totally Awesome Geeks would do a whole segment on a minor, hardly known character like Batman. Well, we at Totally Awesome Geeks are making a prediction. Batman is going to be the next big new thing in Hollywood superhero movies, and if you want in on this bet, be sure to leave us a comment, make sure to subscribe, tell your friends, and be sure to check out all the sweet links in the description. Stay awesome, geeks.